Welcome to this SM Forum on IT asset management, a topic often neglected and misunderstood by management, I think, but one which really underpins the delivery of IT services, focusing on everything from procurement to licensing and software management, and with a big impact on risk and change management in the enterprise. Today we'll have two case studies that demonstrate the essentials of asset management at different levels of maturity. We'll also consider the current state of ITAM within the broader service management environment and look at the latest developments in ITAM tooling. We'll start in a few moments with Stuart Dicken, ITAM lead at Accenture, who will look at some of the key issues and challenges facing us today. Then we move on to Julia Veal at Vodafone for a journey of transformation from traditional SAM to SAM as a service. After a short comfort break at around 11:05, we welcome Tracy Gallagher from the British Geological Survey, who will tell us a little bit about her experience of transforming ITAM from one side of A4, I think she'd say, to a working process within her organisation. And we round off with the team at Freshworks, our sponsors today, talking about the potential for digital transformation, leveraging IT asset management. These events are specifically designed to be interactive, and we encourage delegates to share thoughts and insights. Though, as I say, do stay on mute if you would for the time being. We've left time at the end for a scheduled Q&A, but you can also post your thoughts and questions in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on any emerging themes or queries, so please make use of that function, and we'll be closing by 1 p.m. This session's being recorded today, and as with many ITSMF UK events, the slides and videos will be shared with other members in the event recording section of the member area. So that's enough from me. Over to Stuart to kick us off. Thanks, Stuart.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mark. Hello, everybody. Let me just bring my screen up. Can somebody just let me know if we can see that okay?
Yep, that looks good.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so yeah, welcome everybody. My name's Stuart Dicken. I am the EMEA lead for IT asset management at Accenture, but I am also part of the committee at the British Computer Society Special Interest Group on service management and IT asset management. I'm going to be talking today a little bit about the trends and things that we're seeing within the new year for IT asset management. As Mark was saying, if there's any posing questions anybody has, please feel free to pose those in the chat and we'll come to those in due course. So a couple of points that I'm going to cover through today, very much the evolving ITAM landscape, that dreaded subject that everybody touches everywhere these days, AI. I promise not to go too deep into that one. I know it's an overdone subject at the moment. Shifting focus, very much how people are now looking at results rather than tools. The evolving area around the job market, always an interesting area to be discussing about skills and talents. Compliance and how we've moved from that mentality to more digital transformation. And I think that'll probably really touch on what a number of our other speakers are talking about today as well. Something that's becoming more prominent these days, and as the title is there, new but not new, of outcome-based licensing. Talk a little bit on that one. And in fact, I saw somebody mentioning that on LinkedIn this week as well. So very much a key area for some people. And then just briefly touch on some key takeaways and outlooks and give some space for some Q&A at the end. So first touching on the evolving landscape, over the last few years, ITAM has really transformed from being very much a cost savings initiative and compliance initiatives into a strategic enabler of business success and being very much a mandatory thing for cybersecurity. Hybrid IT environments, cloud services, SaaS adoption, these have all added layers of complexity that require ITAM to be more agile and more integrated than ever before. And I'm sure our speakers from industry that are talking today will very much see that reflection, as I'm sure many of our attendees will as well. And that's probably in IT service management as a general, not just ITAM. Organizations need to be more proactive and manage evolving vendor licensing models. Again, going to talk a little bit later about some of the outcome-based models that people are now starting to look at. And we very much want to minimize our compliance risk and make sure that our financial exposures are as small as possible. Traditional compliance focus is on is no longer, sorry, get my words right there. Traditional compliance focused approach is no longer the real sufficient to our businesses. We need to be more adept at looking forward and strategic to optimizing our IT spend within organizations. IT asset management now must provide actionable insights into our organizations. I've known Julia who's speaking up next for a long time, and I hear her talk about this as well, of making sure that there's business value into her organization and buying into that. We just having lists and managing inventories is no longer sufficient for ITAM. We very much need to be providing actionable insights into our businesses. So AI, let's briefly touch on this subject. AI automation, it is absolutely revolutionizing the world, not just in ITAM, we see it everywhere. It's about the workloads and those manual activities, bringing those activities that are around inventory side of things, processing, compliance, tracking, cost optimization. There is so much opportunity for these activities to be brought forward and done in a much more timely manner. Predictive analytics, they very much are helping companies anticipate what their software demands are going to be, looking at the renewal cycles, optimizing that license utilization ahead of those areas. AI-powered tools, that they are very much here to stay, proactively detecting what our license risks may be, looking at the way that organizations can be ready ahead of audits. I would never, ever recommend anybody to completely rely on these areas, but, it is an area where those AI tools can help us understand where things may be. And I would also say that despite the actual advantages that we talked about there, we need to be aware of the challenges, and those challenges still remain the same as those classic ones, which is data quality. An AI tool is only as good as the data that it's either learned upon or the data that is going in for it to be analyzing. We've had this problem since day one within IT asset management, and we need to make sure that we do that. We look after that data to ensure we've got good results out of these things. So organizations need to strike a balance between that level of automation, ensuring there's human oversight to make sure that we've got some meaningful insights from a perspective there to talk with our business and drive business decisions going forward. So I'll just double check my chat window, see if we've got anything in there at the moment. No, we're all good. So we'll carry on. So what we've really seen a lot of changes is the traditional world where people would go out and they would buy tooling, and that's what they would focus upon. But now we see more and more about organizations are more concerned about the results. They're not too worried about what the tools are that are being used, where those tools are being used. It's about, am I providing the insights? So a lot of organizations mistakenly assume that they can buy the best tool and that will give them success. We've seen it many a time, again, not just in ITAM, we see this in a lot of tooling areas, that the value comes from being able to use these tools. One of the areas that I've always likened this to is the driverless cars. Driverless car is great and wonderful for getting you around, but it still needs a mechanic to look after it and make sure that it is performing as it should be. So there is always going to be a need for a human oversight on these tools, making sure you've got processes that are right, making sure that your data is where it should be. So without clear objectives as to what you're trying to do with your ITAM tools, they tend to become underutilized and even actually fail to deliver on the returns that they are promising. We are very much seeing that people are understanding that you need to get your governance and your processes in place before you select a tool. Traditionally, we've seen lots of people will buy a tool first. And we've seen that actually there is now this more focus towards defining the process and the data quality, ensuring that ITAM contributes towards measurable business outcomes. If we don't link to those business outcomes, then there is no real value to the organization, and people will question what it is that ITAM actually brings. So at that point that we've got on the screen at the bottom there, key success indicators, we need to make sure that we've got measurable cost savings. We've got the ability to optimize and improve governance within our organization. There is a lot of demand that is put on ITAM to identify risk and reduce risk within the organization. So being able to say, hey, we know where the risk is within our business ahead of any potential formal audits, any potential security risks. Any of you that are in the banking sector, for example, you've now got DORA requirements that require you to understand what assets you've got out there, what the potential risks are around those. So ITAM strategy should be built around business needs rather than being dictated by the capabilities of individual tool sets. So talking about the job market side of things, this is an area that always gets a lot of interest. We are still seeing lots and lots of demand for ITAM professionals, and that to be constantly growing. The supply of skilled talent in this area still seems to be on the low side, and that's not through the lack of training and things that are out there. There is lots and lots of good training skills out there. It's about the ability to go in depth and get the actual experience around these areas. AI and automation does a good piece of work about reducing the manual tasks, but those sorry, we'll carry on. Those experienced professionals are still needed to interpret that data and make sure that there's strategic decisions around this. So there is a bit of a barrier to entry where those junior skills are really good and valued, but what the industry is looking for is those high-end professional skill sets that tend to come with experience. And those people are moving around the industry a lot, with them either being in end user organizations or within service providers. Those service providers are working really well to provide the high-end skill sets into organizations. So rather than us having to pay and have very high skill, let's say specialist resources in Oracle within an organization that may only have 3 months worth of work, by being within service providers, those service providers can get those skills into businesses on a as required basis. So what we need to do, we need to actually start the upskilling and make sure that those junior resources are actually getting the training that they need, they're getting the progression that they need, and access to those expertise to help in that ever-evolving landscape around IT asset management. We see lots and lots of people that are coming up through the industry. Part of my role within the BCS special interest group is an early careers advocate, and I really enjoy my time spending talking with people that are either fresh out of university and college or even just done a career change to say, hey, look, ITAM is a growing area. There is lots and lots of opportunities here. And there's people like myself that have done, what am I now? I'm 25, heading into my 26th year of being an ITAM professional now. And it's really good to see that there is this opportunity for people to say, hey, I just want to specialize and be a fractional piece of this. I want to be an Oracle specialist, and I'm just going to do that. Many organizations are starting to look at those fractional skill sets and making sure that people have just the bits that they need. And the close of that is very much upskilling and training is needed. If you've got an ITAM team, make sure that you are doing job shadowing, make sure that people are being able to see where their expertise is, how they can move forward within their organization. and basically navigating those compliance challenges and making sure that they are being invested in those specific areas. We see lots of skill demand around publisher-specific compliance things. So we can see a couple of questions in here coming up. So I'll just quickly refer to that one because it is about the job sector that we're talking about there. Top 5 courses that you'd advise someone to do who wants to progress a career in ITAM. And I think there is a great question. Top 5, there's probably quite a lot out there that could do. And it comes to where your area is. If you are very analytic in your background, actually looking at those license compliance pieces, make sure that you understand how to license products. There is some very good stuff from the ITAM forum, ITAM review area, a training platform called Lisa that's got some good materials on there. But then there is also the highly skilled technical side of it. There is a lot of demand I'm currently seeing personally around Flexera technology and ServiceNow technology. Again, lots of good courses from those tool providers around that. So, if you've got the skill sets for implementing and managing those product sets, always a good area to be looking at. So let's carry on past the job bit. Digital transformation. So while compliance remains fundamental aspect of ITAM, organizations are now starting to see that this is actually a business enabler. I've worked with defense contractors, financial service sector organizations, and they're all saying this is how we make a difference within our business. This is how we understand our business and secure our business. So ITAM plays a critical role within that digital transformation. It provides visibility into assets and allows you to align them to your business goals, your security requirements. It amazes me when I've worked with defense contractors who you go in and say, hey, can I see a big list of your assets? I want, have you got an asset database or a CMDB even? And they'll say, we have, but it's not quite up to date, or we're not quite sure about this information. So, ITAM allows your business to go on that journey and work together with security, with procurement, with finance, and become an integrated part to make sure that we are delivering where we need to within the organization. So ITAM must work closely with those other areas. If we don't, we become a silo on our own. And I'm not talking about just with IT service management. I'm talking about, as I was saying there, procurement, finance, security, all of these areas. We need to help enable them on their journey and meet their business goals around that. So by moving beyond that compliance, ITAM has become a more proactive function within the organization. It's supporting strategic business decision, which gets it higher up in the visibility within the organization. It gets us a seat at the table. And when there are decisions being made at that C-level suite, they are coming to ITAM to say, hey, tell us about our organization. Where are our risks? Where are our understandings? And how can we be more effective within our business? So this is an interesting one. As I say, I saw a couple of comments about this coming up on LinkedIn over the last little few weeks or so, which is the outcome-based licensing. And I've put it there as being a new paradigm, but it's not really that new, to be honest. We've seen this in the past, where you would pay by the number of transactions that go through a payment system, or there was even a while ago a piece of software that was for managing airports, and it was based on the number of planes that go through the airport and things like that. So, traditionally our softwares would be fixed subscriptions or perpetual based on the number of users or based on the number of devices that it's deployed on and things like that. So what we're now seeing is actually, and I think ServiceNow is probably a good example of it, where we're seeing vendors coming out with with licensing models that say, hey, based on the value you achieve from this, based on what benefit your business gets, we're going to change the licensing model and say, hey, look, there's some good things to be had. You're benefiting, we want to benefit from it as well. So we're seeing more and more of this, and we also see it from a very simple point of view of going, hey, look, it's not just the actual outcome. It's the value that you're getting from it. So if you think Microsoft Office, for example, your E3 and your E5 license, you see a different licensing depending on which functionality you are getting out of this. So there's very much an impact on our ITAM teams here. So this is meaning we're having to have conversations that we've potentially never had before. Going through and finding out, how many business deals are we doing? How many teaspoons have we got in the catering department, or whatever outcome-based things that we're now talking on here. So it gives us a strong position to be talking with the publishers and the vendors and really saying, hey, look, we're getting value out of this. You want to get value out of this. Let's have a grown-up conversation about dynamic licensing and working out what is going to be right for both parties. So we've become more of a partnership conversation than a traditional vendor and supplier. Let's see, we got a comment coming in from Peter there on this subject. Outcome-based licensing must be enabled in the public sector procurement, otherwise it's just giving vendors tools to silently yeah. So yeah, it's a very good point. These vendor-based, sorry, these outcome-based licensing models, they need to be very transparent. And public sector is a great point for that. Of going, actually, we've got some really good understanding of what we're trying to achieve, and make sure that it is something that delivers value to the organization, not just to the vendor as they were doing. So coming into some key takeaways and then just opening up for a bit of discussion for anybody that wants to come forward with any comments around that. So AI, it's here, guys. As much as some people want to shy away from it and say, hey, look, not on my estate. It's there. It's within tooling. We are seeing it more and more within the organizations. We see it particularly around the automation of compliance activities, being able to analyze data. We've seen some of the tools that have gone from taking days to produce a compliance position in Excel spreadsheets to producing them within minutes. Shift on the tools to outcomes. Absolutely. You've got to look at probably, I think we're about 5 years back now, where Gartner moved their analysis of the industry from SAM tooling to SAM service providers. Businesses don't want to know what tool they're being used. They want to know what the outcomes are, what the risks are, what the value are to the business. The talent shortage still continues. My advice to anybody, make sure that you get your skills up to date. You continue to grow those. There is so much opportunity out there. From a business perspective, protect your people, make sure they are getting invested in, make sure that they are getting what they need to do their job and keep them happy within position. Digital transformation, this is ITAM's future. We are about enabling the business. Let's make sure that this is not something that dies on the vine as a silo activity of going counting the licenses, counting the computers. We are here to give the valued information the business needs to move forward and transform and innovate. And then the outcome-based licensing, as you're saying there's new models that we're going to need to adopt to. So that said, that's the structured piece that I've got for today. And really opening it up to anybody that's got any comments, any questions that wants to go any further on this one.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Stuart. Very good introduction there. Yeah, if anybody has any more comments, questions, if you could put them in the chat, that's the best place to pick them up. We've got about 120 people on the call today, so I think the chat's probably the best way to do it. I see that issue of AI versus managing talent coming up a lot now. Having the right automation tools in place, but at the same time making sure you've got the right people doing the right things. And I think that seems to be impacting so many areas of service management now.
You're absolutely right, Mark. Would you really want to base multi-million pound, euro, dollar decisions based on some output that's gone through a black box that you don't have full control of? Probably not. So, that human governance is a key part to this, and why we need those highly skilled staff to understand what they're looking at. the nuances are very much a human activity, of being able to say, hey, look, I know this is what the data says, but I understand where the business risk appetite is. I understand where the business is trying to go with these things, which is always a very much a struggle for AI intelligence.
Excellent. Thank you for that.